Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Rat Chats. Today I'm going to be discussing a strategy that I use to develop a pattern of positive and growth-oriented thinking throughout my day-to-day routine. I call this strategy positive thinking triggers. The way that I apply positive thinking triggers is by starting with 3 or 4 positive thoughts or reminders that I want to bring with me on a day-to-day basis. For example, I may start with 3 simple ideas like 1, have patience, right? I'm somebody that's always in a rush. It's always hoping to get to the next result or to the next task. And so a daily reminder to have patience can be very valuable for me. Second, remember that I control my own thoughts. It's so easy for us to get hijacked by outside circumstances, by different people or different situations, and allow that to affect our mood or affect our happiness on a day-to-day basis. So I'm constantly trying to remind myself that I control my own thoughts and that I am responsible, right, for my happiness and my mood throughout my day. Right? And lastly, be willing and open to change. Okay, I always want to be ready to change. I always want to remain open-minded because just when it feels like things are going the way they're supposed to go, that's typically when life will throw us a curveball and will force us into some sort of change. So if I can practice being open-minded and being willing and able to change quickly and without much resistance, that's going to help me in my day-to-day routine, and it's going to help me to grow in my career and in my life. Once I've decided on the thoughts that I want to use, I will choose 3 triggers, which are all things that I see on a daily basis or at least several times a week. I typically like to use things in nature. I like to use birds, I like to use trees, I like to use leaves, all right? But anything that you know is going to catch your attention and anything that you know you're going to see on a consistent, on a daily basis or at minimum on a weekly basis, that will serve as a fantastic trigger. Once I've assigned each one of these thoughts to a trigger, right? So for me, if we go back to those 3 thoughts that I went through, right, I've assigned that thought of staying patient to the blue heron, to my favorite bird. Right, I live right here on the banks of the Chattahoochee River in Atlanta. Right, it's often that I'll go over there and I'll run and I'll come across a blue heron standing on the shores, and every time I see that blue heron, I'll remind myself to remain patient. Okay, or remembering that I control my own thoughts. Right, I've assigned that to the hawk. Okay, anytime I see a hawk fly over my house or land in a tree in the backyard or see a hawk when I'm out in the trails running, I use that hawk as a trigger to remind myself that I control my own thoughts. And lastly, to be willing and open to change. Right? I like to use leaves to be willing and open to change. What changes more easily than leaves, right? So anytime I see a falling leaves, a pile of leaves, maybe I got a pile of leaves in my yard, right, I'll try to use that as a trigger to remind me to embrace change, to remind me to be open to change. By using positive thinking triggers to consciously practice repetition of these thinking patterns, of these specific thoughts, over time, we'll develop a consistency, we'll develop a habit of thinking in that way. As you begin to gain consistency around adding in these triggers and adding in these thoughts to your daily basis, I'll try to tack on more. I'll go from 3 triggers to 4 triggers to 5 triggers to eventually having 8 or 9 different positive thinking triggers that I'm carrying with me throughout my day. I love this strategy because it doesn't require me to take time out of my day to sit down and journal, right? Sometimes we get into the rat race of life and it's very hard to find that time to sit down and to reflect and try to build on some of these things. So I love the positive thinking trigger strategy because it allows me to carry it with me throughout my day. I'm walking my dog down by the duck pond, I see a blue heron, I'm gonna get a little positive thought workout in that moment. Or I'm on my way to coach my game and I come across a hawk in the sky, and now I'm going to remember that I control my own thoughts, and I'm going to enter into that coaching or that game with a little more of a clear mind and a little more self-control. By applying the practice of positive thinking triggers, you will develop the habit of keeping your thoughts working for you and not against you on a day-to-day basis. When we practice these habits in easy moments and relaxing moments throughout our day, well, then they're going to become subconscious, and we're going to go to them and we're going to be able to apply them in the challenging moments where it is really hard to stay positive, where maybe you aren't really wanting to be patient or you aren't really wanting to be open to change. So make sure you take advantage of this strategy. Make sure you practice it on a day-to-day basis so that you can lean on it and you can fall on these things when you are in challenging moments or challenging circumstances. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Rat Chats. Remember to stay positive, and I'll catch you guys next week.